parents just they're not aware of what's going on, or they don't think that they can make a change. Of the over 600 families that we had signed up for the school that's called an intent to enroll, they indicate that should the school be approved, they would put their children there. We have to show demand, which there was plenty of demand. But of those students, over 50% of them were currently at the time they were being homeschooled. So they had already left the district schools because they didn't believe that their children were getting the kind of education that they wanted, and they felt that they had no choices. So they'd already left, but they really wanted to come back into the school system. They would like their kids to be in a tuition-free school that really aligned better with their values, with, parental rights. They just want the schools to focus on academics. And that's what our school was going to do. I mean, it was teaching phonics, teaching Singapore math, teaching cursive, Latin, history that has not been whitewashed. They want their kids to learn a very well-rounded liberal arts education, and they just can't get it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unleashed. Boy, has a lot been going on in Colorado and across the country that we could talk about. But I want to focus on a specific issue today, our school districts, and what's happening across Colorado, specifically in a couple key areas, including Jefferson County and Poudre Valley up north, Denver Public Schools, Boulder Valley School District. The woke is going crazy across Colorado, and parents are starting to fight back. I've been asked to be involved in a lot of conversations down in Durango lately, and the things that are going on in that school district are shocking. It used to be called 9R. Now it's Durango Schools or Durango School District. But boy, they have the whole gamut, from boys and girls sports, boys and girls bathrooms, counselors getting hold of kids at age 12 and not telling parents about it, parents in the dark on pronoun changes, horrible stats on reading, writing, and math. So what we decided to do was at Rocky Mountain Voice put together a highlight over 12 days called the Dirty Dozen. The Dirty Dozen, the 12 ways that Durango schools are hurting our kids. And we wanted to talk about what's happening down there and expose it, because a lot of this stuff is actually happening all over Colorado and in your own kids' schools. It's really, really important that you stay involved, volunteer in the classroom, take the kids on field trips, ask your children a lot of questions, because Colorado is teed up to be the center of where a lot of things bad happen in our schools across the country, believe it or not. You're not going to believe some of these stories. And I'm super excited to have a dad come on board and talk to us about some of these issues from a personal perspective. In just a few minutes, we'll introduce Hunter. So I'm going to go through the Dirty Dozen. I do them in individual videos on Rocky Mountain Voice, which you can check out on our social media, like little mini podcasts. But I want to go through the whole list here, and then we can break it down and talk about some of these things with Hunter. So number one, 3 complaints have been filed with the U.S. Department of Education Office for Civil Rights on Durango School District, alleging that 9R is breaking federal law with discriminatory practices in hiring, programs, and policies. Now, these violations threaten our kids' education and fairness, honestly. We've got to make sure that our districts are following federal law. Our president was elected to do just this, to clean this stuff up. And as much as Governor Jared Polis and our state legislature wants to thumb their nose at the federal government and President Trump and say, nope, we're doing things our own way, there are consequences to that, like losing funding or being in the news for pushing back, and parents are saying, why? Why would we do that? Why do we want this in our schools? So that's number one, the 3 complaints filed by the Office of Civil Rights in the Department of Education to stop the nonsense that's going on in Durango. You can read in a more deep way about these issues on Rocky Mountain Voice or in the social media posts, each individual one. There's a link to a deeper article about each individual point, but that's number one. Number 2, get this, you guys, a band teacher, Benjamin Smith, hired during COVID, who pushed a very woke agenda in his classroom, is accused of molesting 37 children. 37 children. He's been federally indicted on 56 counts, including production and possession of child pornography and sexual assault. The investigation is continuing with Homeland Security and the FBI. Now, what I call this is a failure of oversight that's endangering our kids. And it's happening in other places around Colorado. Whoa, has Jefferson County had their share of pedophiles and sexual assault and shenanigans going on in the classroom. Jeffco Kids First, Lindsay Dotco and that group has exposed so much of that in Jefferson County. If you want to take a deeper dive on that front, follow Lindsay on Twitter or in Facebook. And we highlight a lot of her stories on Rocky Mountain Voice as well. So, parents have to get involved on these issues. They have to call out the school district, call out the board, call out the administrators, the superintendent, and demand answers. Like, how was this guy hired? And what is doing to prevent this from happening in the future? So that's number 2. Number 3, the school board spent $209,000 of taxpayer money on third-party DEI experts or consultants, with just one day of professional day consulting costing $69,000. Do you know what $69,000 could do for a classroom? I'm pretty sure that can hire a pair or assistant, an aide for a teacher and help kids who can't read, write, or do math, which is the majority of kids, young kids in Colorado. This money could have funded textbooks, teacher training, yet it went straight to ideology. That's just nonsense. Parents, you've got to demand a breakdown of the spending in your school district and in the classroom and ask why this stuff is being prioritized over education and kids learning how to read, write, and do math. All right, that's number 3. Number 4, exposing concerns with the Gender Support Plan. Now, this was developed with CASB guidance, which is the Colorado Association of School Boards, and it includes therapists and counselors deciding if parents will be notified about a student's gender transition. You'd think that they'd want parents very involved in that conversation. It's a pretty important thing happening to your child if they decide out of the blue that they're a boy or a girl when they were born the opposite of what they are claiming. Not cool. So students are using all gender bathrooms or those that they identify with. They're using names and pronouns that don't jive with what their parents consider them in school records. Parents, it's time for you to demand clarity. Why do they want to exclude parents from this process? Why is that so important? I don't understand. Number 5, former teachers Vivian and Joanna Smotherman, also ex-Senate District 6 candidates for the state legislature, took a student who was transitioning herself to a boy without the mother, Cindy Stein's, knowledge. Now, this betrayal raises questions over 9R's oversight. Parents need to demand answers. How was a student taken by a teacher out of the home or out of her family situation and, kept in the dark with her parents? That's just crazy. And we're hearing more and more stories like this. This happened in Jefferson County also. So parents, you've got to ask questions. Is this allowed? Why would this happen? What if my child comes to you and says, I don't want to live in my home anymore? What happens? Who do they call? Do they call the parents? Do they tell the parents? A lot of questions here. All right. Number 6, a group of active school volunteers rejected a gift of 60 American flags for classrooms, while Progress, Pride, and Black Lives Matter flags were allowed under broad resolutions. Now, some parents see this as prioritizing ideology over patriotism. Parents should demand the board explain why the American flag was rejected and how flag policies actually serve education at all. Can we just stop with this nonsense? It's ridiculous. And I think it's a sign of political overreach. I'll tell a quick story before I go through the next half of the issues, the dirty dozen in Durango. When my twins were in first grade, we were in Boulder Valley School District. And they came home one day and told me, today we learned that we could be a boy, a girl, a cat, a dog, whatever we wanted to be. And our teacher would honor that. They said it in first grade terms. And I was like, what are you talking about? Now, this was a while ago, you guys. I think this was back in 2018, before kind of the woke disease hit everybody across the state of Colorado. And so I started asking some of the other parents. And before we knew it, within a few days, there was a play at the school that represented a bird getting a sex change operation. I think it was called Raven, something about Raven. And we weren't allowed to opt out of it. And so a lot of us parents were like, what are you doing? Our first graders don't understand this at all. Why would you give them this information? And come to find out, there was this whole training program behind that play and what was happening in our school up there, the elementary school, Superior Elementary. And it was taught by a program called Queer Endeavor at the University of Colorado Boulder's Department of Education. And back in 2018, they had trained over 5,000 teachers in North Metro Denver how to queer the classroom or the curriculum, how to queer the curriculum. That's what they said. And they were also taught to deal with problematic parents. Guess what those are? Those are parents who don't agree with this approach or don't agree with teaching our first graders what gender ideology is, or that they can have a sex change operation, or that they can be a boy or girl by snapping their fingers and claiming it's so. A lot of us parents had an issue. In fact, 30 families left the school because of that. One family was brave enough to sue the school district over it on grounds of religious freedom. And boy, it was a battle, but they got a big settlement from the district. And I believe they got an apology. But they are warriors. BJ and Brecken, they did a great job with that and really stood strong throughout that whole situation. So back to the list. And that's just one reason why I care so much about this and what's happening in Colorado. It's personal to me. And because of that, we left Boulder Valley School District and we moved down to Douglas County and put our kids first at a school out of a church. And then we went to a private Christian school, which we helped found. We were one of the founding families. And it's been a wonderful experience. And we're so blessed to not have to worry about a lot of this stuff that is happening in the public schools. So back to Durango School District and the dirty dozen, the 12 ways that they are hurting our children and hurting parents, hurting families. This next one, Colorado State House Bill 25-1312, the most egregious bill ever proposed, allows kids to access mental health services without consent. 9R board director and HD59 rep Kate Stewart voted for it, undermining family authority. Parents, demand how this law will be implemented in your school district. Durango parents, you have a lot of questions to ask because it is being implemented. And let's keep families first. This isn't right. Number 8, the 2025 CMAS scores. So that's kind of the statewide scores of kids across Colorado are dismal. Sunnyside Elementary has 68% of kids not proficient in English language arts and 79% not proficient in math. District-wide, 50% cannot read, write, and 56% can't do math. 9R, the school district touts a top 20% state ranking with those numbers. But with Colorado averages at 45% at English language arts and 36% math, the bar is so low. Parents demand the board explain these scores and a plan to improve. Let's demand better education. And let's focus our money on dollars that can actually improve results in the classroom around the things that matter most, which is reading, writing, math. Number 9, the Colorado Association of School Boards has a gender transition policy helping districts adopt plans just like 9R's, which fully embraces the woke. CASB's guidance shapes 9R's approach to gender identity, raising concerns about parental exclusion. That's where the parents are being left out of the conversation. Parents, you need to know what's going on. You have to stay nosy. You have to stay involved, volunteer in the classroom, ask your kids questions, and demand that the board explain CASB's role, the Colorado Association for School Boards, this association, and how it's going to affect your kids. Next up, next to last, we have 3 more. The district spends $12,783 per student, the Durango district does, with $90 million in revenue. Yet 2025 CMAS scores show failing academics. With 18.5% of students economically disadvantaged, poor, why isn't this money improving classrooms? Parents demand a detailed budget breakdown. Really dig in. Ask for those numbers. You deserve it. Number 11, The district's gender support plan allows students to use all gender bathrooms or those they identify with. Parents have raised significant safety and privacy concerns about these shared spaces. Parents demand the board address these issues and ensure your child's safety. Finally, the Durango School District 9R isn't playing fair. The Colorado Secretary of State's Elections Division filed a complaint and fined this school district for illegally promoting school board member Katie Stewart's campaign for State House Representative, the legislature. They're playing politics with your tax dollars. Using our taxpayer time and resources, the district drafted and circulated a letter endorsing Stewart and claiming she could handle both roles, posting it on their website and emailing it to more than 7,000 parents and staff. Not only was it undermining to our fair elections, the state determined that this was an illegal campaign contribution. And this district, piece of work. The school paid the fine, but the damage is done. Your tax dollars funded political promotion and undermined our fair elections. Demand accountability with 9R. That's our Dirty Dozen. And like I said, you can do a deeper dive on social media. We'll put some of the links in this post for the podcast. But if you live in Durango and you have children or grandchildren or nieces or nephews in the schools, it's time to show up at a board meeting. Next board meeting that you can do public comment is September 23rd in the evening. Go, speak up, use your voice. If you can't go, send your family, send friends, send somebody, or write a letter to the school board, email them, whatever you need to do. All right. I'm very, very grateful that this father has decided to come on and speak to us about what's happening in Durango School District. Hunter, I'd love for you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about why you're engaged in this issue, and welcome to Unleashed.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me. Got a thunderstorm going over right now, so you might hear a lot of background noise. But yeah, good to be on here with you. And I've got 3 kids in the Durango 9R school district. One's in middle school, daughter, and I have 2 boys at elementary school there. And just basically started. We moved here 2 years ago from Arizona and had them in a public charter school there. Was just, typical basic learning, no weird stuff going on, just your core subjects. It was a great school. And we moved up here and I started having some questions when they came out with this whole resolution for using the all gender bathrooms and bathrooms of whatever gender a student identifies with, is where I really started to get involved and speak up.
Hunter, what's your take on the board? Like, are they intentionally putting an agenda forward, or is this kind of a mishmash thing that comes up every once in a while, or is it an overall plan to kind of be the model for the rest of Colorado on how to do this?
I think it's for the board members, probably an intentional agenda, just a very progressive agenda. To push this LGBTQ stuff on our students and gender dysphoria and, dividing by race. And I think the superintendent was initially against it because in October of 2024, they came out and said all political flags are going to be banned from the classroom. There won't be any LGBTQ flags or Black Lives Matter flags because the district's going to get sued over this. And then, of course, the board in January reversed that decision by the superintendent. So it seems like the board is the problem. So I went and I spoke out. Once I got wind of this, I was like, oh, my God, I thought that was a good thing. They were banning the flags and everything, and now they're gone and backpedaled on it. So I went to the February school board meeting to speak out. And my main issue with them was I didn't really focus on the flags a whole lot because that was one thing. I just wanted to really hit home on the bathroom thing because just like I've got a daughter in middle school. All these kids are going through puberty and they're sitting here saying in their resolution that a student can use whatever restroom they want based on the gender that they identify with is just absolutely ridiculous. So I called them on in the board meeting, and of course they wouldn't answer or respond. And then they sent me an email response after, basically confirming that policy is in alignment with Colorado state law. So they're trying to frame it like they're just following Colorado state law. referenced a statute, and I looked up the statute. I don't have the number in front of me, but the statute talks about new state buildings or buildings getting renovations have to have a single stall, gender neutral bathroom, but it says nothing about letting people use whatever bathroom they want as part of that law. It has nothing to do with that. So it's a total false argument.
It doesn't seem like they care much about following the rules or the laws on the books, especially when it comes to the new federal guidelines and regulations that are coming down. And that's why they're getting in trouble with the Office of Civil Rights, Department of Education. So do you think that they're taking that seriously? Or is anything changing, or is it the same old every day now?
No, I don't think they're taking it seriously at all. I think they're just taking like a wait and see approach. I think it's like a lashing out against Donald Trump and conservatives. Basically, we're losing the election maybe, but it was like immediately after Trump was sworn in, they came out and reversed the policy to appease the loud voices on the LGBTQ side. I think Katie Stewart or one of the board members quoted as saying, "If you don't like it, vote us out," was her response to that policy.
Speaking of which, there's a school board election coming up in a couple months. And I think there are some candidates challenging the current school board. How upset do you think parents are in Durango? Do you think there's a chance that they will flip the board or upend the board?
I think there's a chance. I know we have, I think, 3 candidates that are running to oppose the incumbents. And all the incumbents are bad as far as I'm concerned. They all need to be replaced. I think parents are upset. I think it's just a matter of parents not really knowing what's going on because people in Durango are busy and the schools don't really give parents a whole lot of notice. Like when they had this meeting to overturn the flag and bathroom rule, they didn't let any conservative voices in there to speak up, and they didn't really give any notice to parents that this was even happening. Somehow a huge contingent of LGBTQ supporters were there. I guess maybe they got inside info to fill the room to make it look like that was the vast support. But I think most parents are busy working, and they don't, when they hear about it, they're like, "Oh my God, I didn't know that was going on." And I think if we could get enough parents to get out and vote for this election, we got a good chance of overturning some of those seats.
Yeah, it was interesting, Hunter. One of the videos I put out was about the band teacher that is accused of molesting 37 kids and is being indicted and investigated by Homeland Security and the FBI. And so many people reached out saying, "I haven't heard this. I live here. I didn't know this. This is terrible. What is going on?" And it was shocking to me how many people didn't know about this case.
Yeah, I didn't either. I recently joined this school board core group of concerned parents, and we have a Telegram chat, and we just share information. That's the first I heard of it a few months ago. So, yeah, it's crazy, and there's just a total disdain and lack of concern on the part of the board. And then I was surprised the superintendent didn't really show much concern either, because I emailed the superintendent about this bathroom thing multiple times, trying to get an answer. Got a big runaround, a lot of wordsmithing that didn't really say anything. The board never responded to my emails. And then to just sit there in front of them at the board meeting and ask them, why are they letting biological males use our daughter's restrooms? It's just blank stares. And like Rick Peterson, the father on the board, I can't even fathom how he can sit there and let that go by, where you can have some perverted male, it could be an adult, it could be a teacher going into the bathroom with your daughter, or where is it in? Is it, I'm sure, there's going to be a locker room situation or a sports situation going on. And the fact that mothers and fathers can just sit back and say that that's okay is really odd to me and sad.
It is sad. And the claims that, the kids, you have to be tender and prevent suicide by honoring these kids' choices. Well, the data shows the complete opposite, that if you do, and you put them on these, hormone solutions and do surgery, that the kids are much more likely to be suicidal. And I don't understand that either with parents. I've had a lot of conversations with different parents. And when I was running for governor, obviously, this was a newer issue. And it was just shocking to people that I pushed back on these things and just said, wait a minute, like, what are you guys talking about? This is not right for our kids. And the media is so protective of this issue and will just go to war with people over it. Is that how the media is down in Durango, or is there any media pushing back on what's happening?
I mean, all we really have is the Durango Herald newspaper, and they're obviously pretty left-leaning, I think. I don't read it, but I don't think they don't really come out and against the school board that I've seen. So there's not much media out there here locally. But yeah, it's kind of like, to me, it's like enabling a family member that maybe is addicted to drugs. Like, if you're just enabling that behavior, it's just going to get worse. So what these kids need is love and support, not enabling this behavior that's causing this gender dysphoria. And it's just going to keep getting worse and worse if you continue to enable that. They need love and support and understanding, but that doesn't elevate them to a special class where they get to use whatever bathroom they feel like and violate the privacy and security of other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, do your kids talk to you about this stuff, or do they keep it kind of quiet? How open are they with you?
I mean, they're very open. They know that I'm like, watching this stuff like a hawk now. And they know what's going on, and they just kind of stay away from it. And they know that it's silly and they don't believe in it. But yeah, I'm confident they would come to me, especially my daughter, if something happened at school, with the bathroom, or if this became a reality where a boy was playing against her in basketball or something, she would definitely raise red flags.
Which is a question for you, Hunter. Like, what advice do you have for parents, since you've gotten so deep in this issue, other parents who are just starting to find out about this stuff? What would you suggest they do?
The best thing for parents to do, I think, is to go to these school board meetings and speak out at the open comment school board meetings. That way the school board will know that there's a large opposition to this, that parents are unhappy. Right now, I think it's just myself and one other dad that have gone to speak out about these issues so far. So it hasn't been very many because, like I said, people are busy. They don't want to fool with it. They don't want to put themselves out there. But when it comes to your kids, I mean, that's the best you can do, especially as a father. You got to put yourself out there when things aren't right. So dads out there, definitely go speak out. If it's just me and the other dad going there every time, they're just going to say, oh, it's just these two guys again. We're going to move on. But the more and more people we can have speak out, the better.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for giving us your insights, and keep up the fight, and let us know if anything changes or if there's new information. We'll be happy to communicate it as much as we can.
Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Next up, I have a dear friend, and boy, have we been on the front lines together for a long time. You heard me talk about the Boulder Valley School story. Kim and I worked together to get a classical charter school opened up there, and didn't work. The board turned it down, even though 700 kids were interested in the school. So welcome, Kim Gilmartin of the Liberty Schools Initiative. Kim, so happy to have you on.
Thanks, Heidi. I'm glad to be here.
Well, you have indeed been on the front lines of this school choice battle for many, many years. Tell me a little bit about your experience down in Durango School District, specifically trying to open a charter school.
Well, yeah, at the time, this was in 2021, 2022. I was part of one of the co-founders of the Ascent Classical Academies in Colorado, which now have 4 classical charter schools. I'm no longer with them. I as you mentioned, am with Liberty Schools Initiative. It's a nonprofit to help classical charter schools get open. But back then, we had a number of parents, a group of people that came and said, we would really like to have a classical charter school down here. Would you help us? And so we worked for almost 2 years in that community trying to get a classical charter school approved. Like I said, it was during the 2021-2022 school year, and we put the application in, and the school board denied it. None of the reasons good. It was really heartbreaking because there were over 650 students signed up who wanted this school. And I remember the night of the denial and just watching so many parents walking out of that boardroom in tears because they really felt that they had no options, that they had no choices. Because in Durango, it's very isolated down there. There aren't a lot of surrounding school districts, and there aren't many other private options that might work better for them. So it really left them with the option of homeschooling or just going to the district school.
Kim, why do you think the school board ultimately turned it down? Like, why don't they want parents to have choice or different options?
Well, I do believe that this, at the time, the board that existed, which is the same board now, I believe that they are anti-charter in general, but they were very anti-classical school for the reason that, this school was going to teach a lot about, sort of classical schools teach a lot about our American founding, our Western civilization, how, self-governance, responsible citizenship. It is a well-rounded liberal arts education, but many times it sort of gets, I think, mischaracterized as being on one side of a political spectrum, which it is not. It is simply a very, very good, solid, content-rich curriculum. I do believe that this board, the Durango School Board, just was ideologically opposed to everything that the curriculum stood for. They want to teach what and want a curriculum that aligns with their worldview. And I believe that based on so much of what was written in the denial resolution, that they were simply ideologically opposed to it.
When I spoke to Hunter right before bringing you on, who's a dad in the school district, and he's just shocked that more parents don't know about what's going on. Sounds like you had a lot of parents that were awake enough to want a new version down there, a new school down there. Where do you think these parents are now? Do you think they understand? Do you think they'll vote for a different school board in the coming election, or what's next?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. These parents just they're not aware of what's going on, or they don't think that they can make a change. Of the over 600 families that we had signed up for the school that's called an intent to enroll, they indicate that should the school be approved, they would put their children there. We have to show demand, which there was plenty of demand. Mm-hmm. But of those students, over 50% of them were currently at the time they were being homeschooled. So they had already left the district schools because they didn't believe that their children were getting the kind of education that they wanted, and they felt that they had no choices. So they'd already left, but they really wanted to come back into the school system. They would like their kids to be in a tuition-free school that really aligned better with their values, with, parental rights. They just want the schools to focus on academics. And that's what our school was going to do. I mean, it was teaching phonics, teaching Singapore math, teaching cursive, Latin, history that has not been whitewashed. They want their kids to learn a very well-rounded liberal arts education, and they just can't get it. They can't get it in the schools. It's just been too politicized. So I'd say that a lot of those families just continue to do what they've been doing. Some of them tried to get their kids into a private school, and then many of them have remained in the schools because they don't really have another choice, and they are just praying that something will change in the future, that maybe there will be some school board members elected that believe in parent choice, that believe in choice as school choice, and that's what they're waiting for.
Well, they've got an opportunity to vote in some different people onto the school board in just a little bit in November, and it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out and what happens. Kim, thank you so much for all the work you do across Colorado. It's so important, and so many families are so grateful to you and the effort you've made to open so many amazing schools around this state. So keep up the great work, and we hope eventually we can get a great charter school opened in Durango for the parents who really need a different option?
Well, I thank you for saying that, Heidi. I am always wanting to help these parents who are desperate for a new option. And I can just say to the parents of Durango, nothing's going to change until you get the right people on the school board. You got to be the change. You got to get out there and vote. You've got to support these school board members and really understand what it is that they're advocating for. And that needs to be parental choice.
Thank you, Kim. I couldn't agree more. It's why we're bringing these issues to light. And hopefully you've seen the Dirty Dozen videos we're putting out about what the shenanigans that are going on in Durango School District, just trying to educate parents on why they do need to vote differently coming up. So thanks, Kim. I hope you have a great day.
Thanks, Heidi. Thanks for the work you're doing.
Well, friends, you've heard it here today. There are some serious issues in Durango 9R School District, one of the most beautiful parts of our state. And there's a lot of families who want different options down there that have been denied. There's an opportunity to change that with the school board election coming up this November. Get engaged, get educated, learn who those candidates are that are taking on the incumbents who've made these decisions that encompass the dirty dozen ways that they've affected kids in Durango School District. And honestly, this is happening all over Colorado. But we're going to keep highlighting the problems and the solutions and hope that you can help us spread the word. Thanks so much. We'll see you on the next episode.